Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. September's here. We're closer to the start of the NBA season. Still about 40 some nights, something days away. We are still doing our NBA season previews where David puts out his contenders, 8 teams that he believes are the contenders for this year's NBA championship. A number of those previews have come out since we last spoke, so we're going to go through them now, starting with the Dallas Mavericks, last year's Western Conference champions, NBA finalists who, Boston was just clearly a superior team, and that showed in every possible way. But the Mavericks made some upgrades. They lost some pieces too. What are your overall thoughts on the Mavericks going into this year?
I think, last year I wrote that they won the trade deadline, and I got that right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I got wrong is I thought they would have this incredible offense. And in reality, it was their defensive improvements that I think really drove them to have one of the better records in the league after the trade deadline. So going into this year, I'm going to go back to what I wrote last year, which is I think their offense has a chance to be really tremendous. I have concerns about their defense. Their offense will carry the day. Denver's did a couple years ago, and they were fine. But they've got potentially three real holes in their defense, and it's not like PJ Washington's an elite defender.
Right.
They might just have an elite five.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting if that works, by the way,
right?
Because other teams may realize, hey, we don't really need any more defender. We can just have a good rim protector,
right?
And they'll have 48 minutes of that. But I also should say they employ Luka.
Yes.
And I was talking to an NBA coach who has coached Luka. He's been on a staff with Luka before in the NBA, who said to me, he has more talent. This is him talking. This guy's won multiple championships.
Okay. Been in the league a long time.
He said to me, Luka has more talent in this little finger than pretty much anyone in the league. Like that's his quote. And Luka could still be ascending. He's a young guy. So pretty scary. They may not need defense with that kind of talent and what they have on offensive side. And of course, we'll see how Clay does. But going in, you think their offense should be pretty fantastic.
I mean, Luka, so you guys know, whenever we have the True Hoop group chat on WhatsApp, and, we can always, obviously, when David's like locked in on a team or a player, and he'll just send out tweets to us or messages to us sometimes like, player X is a joke. Luka is a joke will often come throughout the course of a season. And you're watching a game and I sit there and I go, I don't know how you stop this motherfucker. Like,
no one else does either.
I'm just like, well, whatever. Like, and so you're right. Offensively, they're going to be very good. Of course, they have Kyrie Irving, who's no slouch himself on offense. I do wonder, how much does losing Derrick Jones Jr. hurt them, particularly on the defensive side of the floor?
Well, this is what we're saying, is that's the loss. He became this, solid, if not even stellar defensive player who also shot the three well, and is an athlete, which is no small thing. He can catch lobs too.
Yep.
So, Clay can't do any of those things. And then to get a little deeper in the weeds, I wrote this. Clay can definitely catch and shoot, but he's also very good at movement shooting.
Yes.
Which is harder. Typically, anyway, almost always. That's not how Dallas plays. That doesn't mean they can't play that way. If I was Jason Kidd, I would put some packages in for Clay, because I think it'll just make Luka and Kyrie that much more effective. When Clay is in one spot, he's only his man is worried about him.
Correct.
So his gravity only works on one guy. When you get movement into it, especially as it relates to screens,
everyone's got to worry.
Gravity can work on more than one guy. That's why I think they should do it. That doesn't mean they'll do it.
Correct. How important is a Najee Marshall signing? Because we both like Najee Marshall a lot.
Yeah, really important. Yeah, the two guys that I think are can be factors into what Dallas can do if they are to be the contenders that I project them to be. It starts with Najee, who I'm a big fan of his energy, his defensive quickness, his chaos creation, how his motor is really good. And then the second-year player, Prosper, I wrote about both these guys. I just got a call yesterday from someone in Dallas raving about what they've seen from Prosper, who
nice.
who has been around. They went to LA. The team went to LA. I think Clay brought him out.
Okay.
I may have told you that already. Clay brought him out, at least a lot of guys. I heard Prosper was terrific.
Awesome.
I've seen Omax myself, saw him in a gym this summer. He's got a long way to go. He's 22 years old, I believe 22 years old, and didn't really play at all last year. Did very well in the G League, especially as the year went on. Between those two guys, and Prosper can play 4 and 3.
Okay.
He's got to shoot well.
Right.
That's a big question mark. Same as Najee, who did pretty well last year. Prosper also has a crazy motor. I call him a Terminator. He just never stops. Just never, ever stops. And but I think Najee's similar and quicker. Prosper is bigger. If both of those guys can supplement what Clay does offensively, what they do defensively and in transition on the glass, and can play defense, which is what both of their calling cards need to be this year, boy, that's a big now Dallas. That's why they're contenders for me. I'm betting on those guys to be able to do it. I'm betting on Lively to improve.
Yep.
And I'm betting on Luka continuing to grow up and he's at an age now where the best players in the world start winning championships at this age, not before.
Yep. And now is the year where it's perennial. We assume top 2, top 3, if not winning MVP time now, right, for him in terms of awards.
Where would you put him in MVP rankings today?
1.
Me too.
Today 1.
I pick him at number 1.
Just based on his age and he's ascending, and it just seems like he's the guy. I mean, he's been All NBA, first team, the last 4 seasons? 3, 4?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years,
he's the guy now. So we'll see if that translates to winning.
Right, but Jarod, you and I both must think they're going to win about 50 games or more.
Yes. Which
I think I have at 51. I'm not sure what I put in there, but I think it's 51. I did the ranking. As soon as the schedule came out, I literally woke up at 3 in the morning and did them. So I don't remember anymore, but I think it was like 51. And so that's enough to hit for him the MVP, right?
Yep,
so
for sure.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Lively, and Vic and Chet, of course, get a lot of the headlines, the second-year bigs that everybody's looking forward to. Let's not overlook Derek Lively. I'm not saying he's going to ascend as well as those two, because they are, another level. But if he just does a little jump, oh my God, look out.
Nailed it. Yes. I think he made 1 3 last year in the playoffs. I've heard he's making some threes. If you can't root for him, you have no heart.
Oh, well,
you're a Trumper, basically. This kid,
or you're just an awful human being who doesn't care about any.
One of the same, more or less, these days. This young guy, if he could shoot the 3 with his athleticism, with Luka's lob threat throwing, and his defensive abilities and potential, it's DeAndre Jordan with a 3.
And you guys, listen to what David just said.
Yeah,
DeAndre Jordan with a 3. That's a player that's all NBA, all defense. Oh my God.
He was the best player in his class. He went to Duke. This is, and he's dealt with some shit now.
A lot of shit.
Andy Dufresne had nothing on him, what he's gone through in his life. And so I know the Dallas guys love him. He seems like, so I help a player in college who's very close to him. And just literally Derek has lived with him in the past because of all the stuff he's gone through. And it's just, he's a lovable kid, man. He could be such and I like Daniel Gafford a ton.
Yeah.
I thought Gafford should have started last year and often did. Lively outplayed in the playoffs. We'll see what this year brings. Gafford's not just going to give that up.
Right.
Good for Dallas.
Correct.
You got 48 minutes of center. Maybe the best, probably the best. OKC's got to run depending on what Hartenstein does at the 5. Which we'll talk about them in a minute. That's a great 40. You got the best player in the world, probably one of the few best. You got an amazing offensive player in Kyrie, and you got 48 minutes of high-level center, not Jokic, Embiid center. Right. You don't need that.
Nope.
They'd be duplicate if you already have Luka.
Correct.
That doesn't help. He wants the space. So, and they both can jump to 13 feet or 12 feet, whatever. And Luka is the best lob passer in the league. And man, Jason Kidd's on you, buddy. You outdid yourself last year, I thought, after the trade deadline. I've not been a big fan, but you got to credit where credit's due. He did a good job last year.
There's a way, right, to just not fuck that up into 50 wins, right? Just don't fuck it up into 50 wins.
What did they get last year?
They might have been right around. Let me pull up their
40.
records.
My mind says 47, 48, but it's been a long time since the season ended.
I know but it seems like we just finished, but I'm like, nah, but it's finished a while ago now. It's been several months. All right,
we haven't looked at the regular season since April.
Yeah, it's true. No, Dallas last year, 50 wins exactly, 50 and 32. I thought they got to 50 last year.
Yeah.
So just don't fuck it up to 50. And if you have a little bit of creativity, you might get to 56.
Well, they also have. Yeah, true. They also the West is so tough though.
Very tough.
Also have the combination of great momentum as the season ended. Granted, they lost Derek, and they got Grimes. I'm not sure what he'll do. They lost in the finals pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the games were decent, but
right.
it wasn't really like. I mean, the Pacers were more competitive. They led in fourth quarter of every single game,
right?
And so that doesn't sit well with competitors. Luka's, if nothing else, he's a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the West has a really strong middle class, but they've got a couple teams that can be elite, and Dallas is one of those teams.
For sure.
Only a couple teams I think can be elite, and I think they're one of them.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And obviously we think it's Dallas and Oklahoma City for sure coming out of the West in terms of elite.
Yeah.
Another one of David's contenders, the New York Knicks, who also won at least 50 games last year, if I'm not mistaken. Excellent. They ran into some injury concerns in the postseason. Because as we know, Tom Thibodeau, it's almost like it hurts his basketball soul and brain and his whole existence to think about rests and whatever for players. And it's interesting because I was talking to someone about this yesterday, David. For a team that is trying to turn over a new leaf and establish and build a new culture and identity, Tibbs in so many ways is the right guy for that. Because he's like, guys, you have to give a shit about every possession, right? And you can see it. When he's coaching, he grinds. I mean, I don't know what the stats say, but he's probably one of the last coaches in the league to wave the white flag in a game when it's clear they're going to lose. Like, it's like, oh, we're probably going to lose. You can tell early in the fourth. He's probably the last coach to be like, all right, fine, I'll sit my guys, right? That's just my eyes telling me that over the years watching him. There's something about that kind of mentality that I think is good for a team that is trying to switch away from losing culture and losing mentality. The Knicks are past that now. It's been 4 years, and out of those 4 years, they've gone to the playoffs 3 times. Like, they've got good talent. They've got young guys. They've got guys who give a shit on both ends of the floor. But this grinded out every possession kind of thing, great. They're going to win 50-plus games. Awesome. Come April, I'm going to be like, well, you're going to die because you play too much. And that's a shame.
Yeah, Tibbs reminds me of the people out there who just don't believe in vaccines. Like you can have all the faith you want in your ideology, but that's where science exists, and science is a very fluid thing. And having a family of doctors in my life, and someone who we remember, our show began interviewing scientists. Right. And scientific reporters.
Yep. Correct.
We all got so much smarter doing it. Science is something you can prove a lot better than just faith. And it just makes no sense. But to your point, in terms of building identity, it's built. It's built. Henry predicted it a couple of years ago because he just knows those guys. And he said, they're gonna fix this. And he was right. And it's happened pretty quickly, actually.
They're a competent franchise, David. Like competent, top to bottom.
Well run, well run. And they just have this one issue where I don't remember anymore who said this recently, but if the goal is to deliver your team healthy into April, which I think what Pop was doing, he was someone may have said that about Pop, but that was what he was doing. That memo hasn't reached. The owl hasn't reached Thibodeau's castle yet. To use my daughter's still living here for a little bit more, so to use Harry Potter parlance, she loves Harry Potter. The owl hasn't made it there. It's got some detours. Got lost because he didn't, and there's no reason. I wrote this. There's no reason to think he will this year.
Right.
He just doesn't believe in it. He doesn't think we're right. He thinks all the scientists are wrong, and that's what we're quoting scientists. Not to mention, to me, it's common sense. Nevertheless, they did get upset by the Pacers. They got, in the last 2 games, up 3-2. Remember, they're up 2-0. They're up 3-2. and they lost their last 2 games by 34 points. Now, you can argue OG's injury and Brunson's broken hand in Game 7, all of that. They got smoked in the Garden in Game 7. There was no, I say this all the time, mystique dies against talent who's executing well. None of that shit matters, right? We've all seen it too many times in every sport, right? Show me a hot-hitting team and bring in Nolan Ryan, and there could be a one-hitter or a two-hitter. So they might be forced as a staff to look at that and say, we did not deliver when we most needed to in terms of health. So maybe we'll see some growth. I always say people have a chance to grow up, right? You know that. People have a chance to learn from their mistakes, and they got a lot of players. They got good players coming off the bench. They don't have to be so tired. And Henry, I didn't write this. It's in my article, but Henry added it. I think it was Henry. Alec Burks was really good for the Knicks.
Sure was.
But wasn't playing until the other guys were dead. Well, what if he had been playing all along? Maybe those guys wouldn't have died. That's what Henry asserted. He's right. So, nevertheless, they're loaded.
Yes.
Bridges, now that's there. I don't care about the Villanova connection. He's just a really good. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But you can have there's plenty of college guys that don't have chemistry.
Right.
They've got a lot of good players.
They do.
You were the first one to tell me about Brunson being named captain. I don't know I don't think that necessarily means anything other than it's just a sign of the culture going. And on Monday, did I talk about someone asked me the keys to culture. And did I tell you this?
No.
It starts with buy-in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. To me, I mean, people can have their own opinion. I don't care about culture because absent buy-in, you're not going to have it.
Correct.
You can have the best guys in the world. But if they're all buying in, you can afford one guy that's not because he'll get swept up in the wave of buy-in. It's like a surfboard on a wave. He's just going to go with the flow. Boy, they've got buy-in.
They sure do.
They've got buy-in. And they give it hard off the bench and DiVincenzo off the bench. And
Achua off the bench.
Their backup center's an issue. Who?
But Precious Achua off the bench.
Precious off the bench, and he's got to play a big role. He's no Isaiah Hartenstein.
No. They're gonna. That's going to hurt them.
Big loss.
It's going to hurt them for sure.
Yeah, I think so. They're not going to kill the offensive glass quite the way they used to. Mitchell Robinson needs to be healthy, or it's really Katie Bar. They're done. Lights. They'll turn off the lights.
Yes, I agree.
If Mitchell Robinson, not Julius Randle, who's very good, if Mitchell Robinson isn't there, now they've lost their two of the best offensive rebounders in the league. I think I even told you that a player told me when I was in LA, I was having dinner with someone, a guy who's been around the league a little bit. He said the hardest guy to box. This is the guy I was talking to has been around a long time and has many very big victories. He was on the team anyway. He wasn't necessarily the star. He said the hardest guy to box out in the NBA was Mitchell Robinson. Done. I said, Steven Adams, no, Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
Because he's so active also.
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't think you're right on that because I think Steven Adams is tougher, but who am I to say? This guy actually plays in the NBA. So Mitchell not being there, now you've lost those two guys. That's an identity changer.
For sure.
But hopefully he's healthy. And, they're really good.
They're a loaded team, and those are the perfect guys that play together. Bridges next to Brunson and OG and Randall and Robbins. It's just, it is and again, they're also the perfect Tibbs kinds of players too. I mean, in almost like a bad thing, it's like when someone who is sort of so dogmatic in one thing, the worst thing you can do is give them something that continues to push that dogma further.
It just feeds his fire.
Right? And Bridges is that because he's the NBA's Iron Man, doesn't miss games. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is terrible, right? Like it's just more stuff than he needs to back up. See, I was right all along. And it's like
but you know what else? You're right on that. And here's something else, and you'll love this because I know you well now. Boy, there was no fan base in the league that better identified with their team than Memphis's Grit and Grind group.
For sure.
And we've got that going on.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The Knicks, already Knicks fans are, I don't care about any of this, but the Garden can be a really special place to watch a game for sure.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean they'll win a game. But this group, adding Bridges, which is Philly's not far from New York City. Obviously, all know Villanova.
It is.
It's going to be electric there, man.
Oh, my God. I'm already thinking like, we doing Nets games this year or Knicks? I'm thinking Knicks games will be far more interesting and exciting.
How far is that for you?
I mean, the Knicks are literally 2 express subway stops away. Like it'll take me 5 minutes to get on the subway.
How long did it take you to get to the?
So Brooklyn is about 25 minutes on the subway.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but I mean that's still super quick.
So right, of course, it's fantastic, and you don't got to drive. But
correct.
you're an idiot if you don't do the Knicks games.
All right.
And you're not an idiot.
Easier on my life.
It's funny. My wife and I are, you know this, we're house shopping in a couple of NBA cities in the next year or two. I think we're going to do something. I said to her last night, we were watching Only Murders in the Building.
Love it. That's in my neighborhood. The exterior of the Arconia is in my neighborhood.
Is that right? That's so awesome. I have to tell her that. And it actually, last night's episode was one of the better ones, maybe the best they've ever had, I thought. It's just really poignant. But I said to her, I forget what the scene was, but I said, like, we got to move to New York, at least part-time, for at least 1 year. We've always talked about doing it, and then COVID hit. We didn't do it in 2020. Yeah. But, and part of it's just for a reason we're talking about. It's when the Knicks are good.
Oh, my God.
It's fun to go to a game in the Garden, yeah.
People, I mean, in so many ways, this is a baseball town, right? Yankees and their history and all that. But when the Knicks are good, there is a fever and the random dude on the corner is like just hyped about the Knicks. And you're like, all right. I wanted to say something. So you mentioned, buildings don't matter and, show me a hot pitcher. I'm sure you remember
buildings
this.
And bushes,
Kurt Schilling said this during one of the infamous Red Sox-Yankee series. And they said to him, what about the mystique and the aura of Yankee Stadium? And Schilling goes, and I don't like Kurt Schilling and his politics, but he goes, mystique and aura are dancers in a nightclub. Like, I don't, I'm not like, what? It's just, and I mean, right? Like, ultimately, the building doesn't matter, right? The building only matters if the players on the floor are also electric and elite. And then it's like, oh, shit, right? You can feel the avalanche. But again, throw in a hot pitcher like Kurt or Pedro, well, that Mystique and aura didn't really matter so much, did it?
I thought you were going to say Mystique doesn't swing the bat.
Well, Mystique also.
This was a better quote, by the way. That's fantastic. Yeah, but there's. I think the way it really works well is the identity clicks back on the players.
Yeah.
There's really a sense of pride and purpose to that team right now.
For sure.
They're angry. They got blown out in Game 7. Brunson's super rich now. Forrest super rich now. There's some players playing for contracts. Like all oars in the water rowing at the same time. We'll see if there's rumors now of Randall being traded.
Well, those have been going on for the last few years, it seems like.
Plowed through it, then he got hurt. It didn't matter. They're going to have to get through some stuff. But I think they're cut out for it. Yeah, I think they're going to be right there at the end.
And while I don't know that it necessarily leads to any wins, I do think that those 4 Villanova guys being close will have some equity that will pay off at some point. I don't know how or when, but
you do know how. You know how. Think about it. When if some of the oars aren't in the water anymore, or they're not rowing in time, because human beings have egos. And they get their feelings hurt. And so, yes, that group can, if they're still connected this way, they can pull together and get through a rough spot. That's what leadership is.
Yeah, for sure. And you need that in this NBA season, in which we know the storms are coming. All right, next team, staying in the East, the Philadelphia 76ers. Look, this team is, I mean, we both love Maxey. He is so good. And he just got paid with his extension, so he's good. Joel Embiid, you can argue second best center in the league, whatever. Embiid, whatever, elite,
best, second best when it depends.
Right,
depends how hard Jokic is playing.
Paul George, is still very, very good at basketball, but elite, like on both ends.
I think elite. Yeah, I agree.
None of this matters unless they get to the conference finals. Like it's enough now with all this stuff. Like, as you mentioned in the article, no James Harden to blame, who everybody listens to this podcast knows, he wasn't to blame the last time they lost either. That wasn't why they didn't make it. So this is now time for Embiid, whether it's health or whatever the situation may be. My guy, it's put up or shut up time now for you. You have got to do what is necessary to lead this team to the conference finals. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll see.
They got Caleb Martin. Did you mention that?
Did not, but that's a huge pickup for them. Huge.
I mean, very athletic, plays with great energy. Had a great, he was probably the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes, he was.
When they made a couple of years ago. Or maybe it was the semis. I don't remember.
He was so good.
But,
I remember.
So I've got him right there. I have question marks about their coach and the fit for how he likes to play. There was a period last year where they were very, very good when they were
very
healthy.
good.
Yeah, and they got There's a lot of things might get broken down if it doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, I
Whereas
mean,
we have no question about New York. We got some questions about Philly.
Look, and I don't like to blame players for this because sometimes injuries are out of your control. But if you are Philly and you're Daryl Morey and you're Josh Harris, and you're trying to figure things out, as I've said, the likelihood of Embiid getting healthier going forward in his career is not likely, right? He's getting older. He's not going to get more healthy as he ages. If it doesn't happen now and it has another year where something happens, let's say in April or whatever, to your point, David, you got to give serious thought to being like, we just blow this thing up because we cannot build around this dude because we cannot count on him being healthy when it matters. To your point, what does Pop try to do? Deliver guys to April the healthiest.
Yeah.
And has he ever had a healthy playoff run? I don't know. Maybe the year they lost to Toronto.
It's hard to
triple
say.
bounce shot. Maybe.
I'm as old as I am. I didn't watch Jim Brown play as a professional football player, but my papa and my dad did. And they used to tell me stories, and I've since, I actually like running backs. I don't watch football anymore, but I just like the ability to see holes, and sometimes they jet and dart, sometimes they run you over. With Jim Brown, with more the run over type. OJ was both. He was incredible. And my dad would say Jim Brown would be tackled. 11 guys had to tackle him, and then he would slowly limp back to the huddle, barely make it in time, finally get set, and then run 25 yards and run you over again every play. That's Embiid. Everything is limping and slow, and so how do we know really how healthy he is? He's such a big man. He's on the ground all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I'd like to see him train some offseason with like a gymnast at the balance beam or something. Just don't fall down so much, big fella.
I mean, and he's not like. I don't think it's not a weight thing. I don't think because I think
I know what it is. It is. Well, I should say I partially know. Some guys, when they're landing funny, it hurts to land funny. It's easier just to fall. We've all done this, and I learned this playing football. He may have done that playing soccer. There were just ways to fall down, almost like cushion the blow compared to what it'd be if you didn't. Yeah, if you did. So I think part of the time that I'm watching, I'm thinking he's falling to protect himself some, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, because it's bruising him up.
I think he's better off not falling. Yeah.
I think so. But look, Philly should win 50 games plus, give or take, if nothing goes wrong with health. They're very good. They're going to be battling battling New York for that number 2 spot because we both think, all things being equal, Boston should be the top seed again in the Eastern Conference, barring major injuries, whatever. All right, moving on to our last team that we have in this preview before we take a break, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who would you call them a surprise team last year? I don't know that I'd say surprise. I mean, maybe
I would.
Because of the record.
They were they had the best record.
Yeah, they did. They did.
In the West. So I didn't expect that. Yeah,
but we thought that they could be good because, man, you got such good young talent, and Chet's could be good, and we like Dagnall. And
I did not have them that good though. I didn't.
Okay.
And J-Dub made a big jump, which isn't always the case. Shea was obviously incredible. Chet was super impactful. The role players played very well. Casey Wallace was good. Isaiah Joe, great shooter. Like they had a lot going on. Lou Dort was solid. That was to be expected. Their coach is really well respected.
Yeah. They're a fun team, and they have the potential now with the signings of Alex Caruso, which basically they swapped for Josh Giddey, which huge upgrade, right? Because not only does he not need to dominate the ball, he guards, which will help Shea on defense, and he lights out shooter, right? 41% from 3. So wonderful and the perfect. Everyone loves Alex Caruso. I don't think I've ever heard any teammate being like, I don't like that guy. Like that's exactly the kind of guy you want on your team.
I was describing Alex Caruso. I was talking to an agent yesterday about a player he has that's in college, and Alex Caruso is the classic 3-and-D guard that isn't the primary ball handler. We always think of that as a wing. Najee Marshall, Omek Prosper can learn to do that at the wing position. There's not many guys that can do it at the guard position. It's just really hard to guard these guys. They're magicians with the ball, and they're athletic, and they're skilled as hell as shooters and scorers and bucket getters, whatever. But Caruso is that guy. He's really a problem defensively, and he's become a great shooter, and he's a champion.
Yep.
It's not nothing.
Yep.
He's going to have a voice in the locker room for a team that hasn't had that. All these guys were postseason losers. Right? I mean, and that's how players think sometimes.
Right.
They can puff themselves up all they want. They lost in the second round with the best record in the league in the West, in the conference. They should feel amazing. They're very young. They should not be down, but they can be down. Alex, I think, can be a guy they really look at as a true leader. And Shea's among the best players in the world, best guard in the world.
Yep.
Now Luka's the best guard.
All NBA first team. He's second best, third best.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Second best right now. Yeah. Yeah. So, Hartenstein, I don't know the fit there.
But
I'm a little worried about
keeping
that.
him, as you said, keeping him away from everybody else, win, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. We talked about that. So, they could always move him at some point. But he also scratches a major itch for them, defensive rebounding, and makes them better off offensive rebounder, which is on a team that drive, kick, shoot, drive again, whatever, spreads you out. There's opportunities for offensive rebounding, and they just don't have the personnel for it. Now they do. Between him and Chet, If I was coaching Chet, I would say don't go to the rim when Isaiah's down there, because it's hard to get a clean rebound when he's down there. So I used to always say this to teammates of Joakim Noah. Joakim goes after everything. And so he may not get it, but the bad guys aren't getting it so easily. You can come in and clean that up. Come in and swoop in and clean that up. I think that Isaiah brings they'll be different this year because of that.
For sure.
I think that's a valuable thing. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, Chet, we believe will make another step forward this year. A very impactful rookie season. Jalen Williams, again, if he can be an all-star level player, that is basically, can he be someone who can create his own shot consistently and reliably? Because if that happens, now you have him and Shea both doing that. Cooking with grease is what I like to say, right? Now we're talking about good stuff here.
Chet's shooting ability, and the defensive play they should have. Yeah. It's no guarantee.
Nope.
They'll make those jumps. But that's their upside. I got about 57 wins, I think.
Which is whoo. And as David likes to say, they have a bazillion D picks still, so they can go trade for somebody like if they need to. So
I don't like to say that. Henry wrote that. And I know it's Henry because I know how he speaks. I'm not great with speaking in hyper. I'm very optimistic and positive and sunny, but I don't tend to speak in hyperbole that way. When you see bazillion, that's Henry. And I get it. He's a better writer than me. I want to say it. He's a better writer than me. And you're supposed to elicit impact and effect when you're writing. Yeah. He's better at that than I am. So he wrote 38 bazillion. But they have a lot of Jarod. If they want to make a deal or two, I mean,
they can.
They're the team everyone's calling.
Correct.
Yeah, we got a player that we want to offload. Call the Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean Sam Presti's easy to negotiate with. I'm not saying that at all.
Correct.
He just has so much to offer.
And because of their bounty of draft picks, David, they're also a team that will likely be asked or called into in 3-team deals, right? Because of the leverage, need us because of the whatever. Well, no, we want this in return. So they're in a catbird seat. So we'll see what happens with OKC this year. That's OKC and Dallas are the two teams in the West, David believes, have the chance to be exceptional and elite and legit contenders from that
based on where they are today. Yeah, that's right.
And that's for sure. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, last Thursday, you gave me homework. You're like, all right, you're always giving me homework about guys and whatever. So who are guys you think?
I forgot.
David asking me that I think could be difference makers or surprise teams or whomever. And I think about it. I was like, all right. I basically looked for guys who were young enough, so in that 22 to 24, 25-year-old range, that were making nice trends up in estimated plus minus, where I'm like, all right, you're getting better. I see it, right? The minutes are increasing. You're getting better on both ends. Like, your shooting's getting better. I'm like, all right. So these are guys that I thought could defense is getting better, which is, that's such a big one, David. Like, if the defense improves like halfway for most of these guys, they're so much better all of a sudden. I was like, Jesus, just be good at defense. How about that? Let's start there. But story for a different day. A player who I know you like a lot, and look, sorry, Henry, but I don't know what Portland's deal is going to be. Look, they're going to be in a lottery. They're not winning anything major, but they're going to be, I think, better than maybe we thought. I love Denny Abdia. I don't know if Portland is the final resting spot for him, because I do think, David, he's good enough to be an impactful player for a team that is in the playoffs or looking to be a solid playoff team. He shoots pretty good. He defends. He's only 24, I want to say. 6'7", 8", somewhere in that range.
No, taller than that.
6'9".
6'9".
I like
20,
him.
He's 23. He'll be 24 in the new year.
I like him a lot. Again, I don't Portland is the ultimate place to see the full version, but I think Denny Avdija could be a very impactful player on a playoff team.
Agreed. I'm a huge fan. Had been a huge fan. He was just stuck in a bad franchise. And now I'm not sure what to make of Portland. Although, they don't have a terrible starting five.
No.
The one guy that's bad is Scoot, but we think he's got a lot of upside. Denny's a tough-minded guy, works hard, can really defend. I think has a chance to be an elite defender.
Ooh.
And I think 37% from three last year. Like he's got the makings of the classic 3-and-D wing, but he can play make a little bit. Like I watched him play when he was on Israel's national team. He dominated the world when he was, juniors, under 21, under 18, dominated, like MVP type stuff. And I don't know what Portland's going to do, but I'm sure teams will target him. I'm quite sure of that. I'm a huge fan, and nice to see him kind of breaking away from what was happening before. And Portland fans will appreciate him as long as he's there.
And something that David mentioned, a bad situation in Washington. The fact that you're able to improve in a bad situation, to me, also tells me something, right? It's like, man, you got a shit squad around you and you're getting better.
Yeah, the one player I was going to throw into the mix, which I can do when you're done, same thing. He got better in a terrible situation.
Yeah. I like that.
I'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay, next player I liked, and I liked him a lot at Indiana when he was there. I liked when he got drafted, when Phoenix drafted him. Maybe you have some insight into why Indiana traded him. I guess because they believe Wiseman and
I think I know why.
Okay, but Jalen Smith.
It's the right question to ask.
David, I think he can shoot threes. Like he's tall. I think
shoots threes really well.
Yeah, really well. I think he can be for sure better defensively. David, I think he's young. He's in Chicago now. I like Billy. Hopefully get some playing time there. Although I don't know what they're doing with Vooch and that whole situation. I like this kid a lot. He's 22, maybe. He's super young.
He's young. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was one of the better shooters in the league last year. Had a great start and kind of stayed with it. What happened to him is, I believe it was game 1 against Milwaukee. He was terrible. Because for much of the year, he was ahead of Isaiah Jackson in the rotation, backing up Miles. Because once they got Siakam, it was Siakam at top and at the 4, and then Turner and Isaiah and Jalen at the 5. And Jalen was playing a lot and gave them that shooting threat and was just terrible in game 1. And Rick pulled the plug on him. That was it. Isaiah played from that on as the backup 5, if they didn't go small, which they did also with Toppin and Siakam playing the 4-5. And so I think the Pacers felt like, well, we can get something for him, or just get off him. I don't remember. Did they trade him to
I think
Chicago?
so. I think it was a trade.
I think so. I forgot. But I think they realized our coaches, when you don't play him in the playoffs at all, if you're playing the rest, you're done.
Yeah.
So he can shoot the ball and he's athletic. I don't know that he's ever going to be a starter. It seems like that isn't happening for him. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But when you can really shoot, there's a place for you.
That's what I'm saying. A shooting 5, you gotta. Yeah. So I wonder with a team like Chicago, which we both don't think is going to be very good this year, like, why hold on to Vooch then? Let's start this kid. Like, you're going to lose probably a ton. So what? This team ain't winning championships or being in playoffs anyway. So
at best they're a play-in hopeful. Yeah, hopeful. Right. So I agree with you.
I like him a lot. Another big man I liked a lot too. Was on Philly. He's now on, where the hell is Paul Reed now? Detroit? No, I don't know. He's somewhere. Paul Reed.
He backs.
I like him a lot, David, when he was backing up Embiid. And I remember this happening when Doc was coaching Philly. I don't know which reporter did it, but some reporter was asking him about why Paul Reed wasn't getting more minutes. And Doc just got really annoyed and was like, Paul's going to get the minutes he gets, blah, 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 whatever. And I wonder this about coaches and how this fucks up players in their development. It's the situation where Doc is almost affronted by some media person who knows nothing about basketball. Dare questioning me, Doc Rivers, who knows lots about basketball, and almost in a like, I'll show you, I'm not going to play Paul Reed. And it's like, but bro, Paul Reed's fucking good. Like, I think he can be very, very good. It's this weird thing. And then I don't know what happened when Nurse got there and why he didn't fell out of favor or what have you. But I think this is a player who's excellent, David, and gets value. I think he can provide real value to a team.
I don't watch football much anymore, but I've watched enough of it in my life, and I do see it on occasion or read about it more than anything, where some team will have this great winning streak because the coach played the backup quarterback. And I always think to myself, well, why do we think that coach is a good coach? When it took the other guy getting hurt or some other reason to get you, like, come on, man. They get stuck in their ways, and Doc, to me, is very guilty of this is how it is, and you can't grow past it. And for whatever reason, he didn't think Paul was that guy, and so now he's backing up Jalen Duren.
Yes,
John Hollinger's always loved Paul Reed. I don't think that John is the best assessor of talent, but his metrics are as. I mean, I love John. Also, just as a pure, hilarious and informative writer. Every podcast he does, every article he writes, I consume all of it. And if he loves Paul Reed, who am I to say he's wrong? Because I happen to agree. I think Paul Reed can be good. I agree with you. He'll have a chance in Detroit. Yeah.
Another team that won't be very good. So
right. Oh, for sure. They got rid of Wiseman. Yeah. But they're interesting though, because that's the team that is the player that I was going to mention in this group. I don't remember, by the way, giving you the homework assignment. It sounds like me. I just getting old, man. I forget a lot of that shit. So you did a good job, Jarod. I give you an A+.
Thank you.
The player that I am excited about, just to piggyback on things you've been saying, as to what you were looking at, is Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey was maybe the worst defensive player in the league his rookie season.
He was. First percentile. He was the fucking worst.
Well, there is a 0 percentile.
Is there? Oh, yeah, true. I guess you So he was like second to worst.
Yeah, we're arguing over something very small. and he was about close to 50% last year, I believe, in terms of percentile.
It's a huge jump.
Right. He improved on a team that sucked. Right? Flames everywhere, and he didn't really get burnt. And he shot okay from three, not great, but he's not 28%. He was 33, 34 both years.
Right.
Super athletic. Mom's a coach. I'm a fan. And they've got so many guards.
You do.
But I do think that he's got a chance to be a breakout guy. And I love him and Cade Cunningham together. The small, super athletic, dynamic guy. And then the much taller quarterback of the team. I'm not sure he's got the chops to be an All-NBA player like they're paying him for. But he certainly could be a very, very good, if not even a great player. I like that combination. I hope it works out for them. With Thompson at the 3.
What do you think happened with Cade? Because what was it? Oh, God.
Injuries.
Okay. Because it was 2 or 3 summers ago when he was on the select USA team. And everybody was raving like, oh, my God, Cade is like lighting everybody up. And they were like, oh. And we were like, okay, he's ascending. The injuries, you think, already sapped him. Yeah.
I think, and hopefully he's been healthy all summer. It's just hard to get better when you're hurt. Yeah. And rehab sucks, too. I had a player once Howard Garfinkel, the famous guy who invented 5-star with Will Klein, who's posthumously was put in the Hall of Fame. Maybe he was still alive when he was, I don't remember. But he was a famous guy for that. And I was very close with Gar for a long time. He told me that the player I brought to him he was here in Clearwater, was the closest thing to Bill Walton he had ever seen. I've been training this guy 4 times a week. He was like my first guy that I had more than one day a week in my training business way back in the 90s. And he was just always hurt. He started for the Gators as a freshman. He was number 1 player Dean Smith visited his house twice. That tells you how good he was. And he was always hurt. And my brother did his MRIs and said, your bones just aren't ready for basketball. They're just the way your skeletons are built. It's always going to be like this. And I talked to Greg, who's a brilliant guy also. And he's like, what kills me is, how do I love to play when I know I'm going to get hurt again and then go through all that rehab? And that's what killed him. And so he retired from basketball as a college kid. It was heartbreaking. And I would tell you a couple of years ago, he built one of many homes he owns next to where Urban Meyer once lived. That tells you the kind of neighborhood he was living in. He's done very well for himself. And I think he would have been different if he had just kept playing and been bitter and bitter and bitter because it sucks. And so Cade's super young, but man, he's had to let us spend a lot of time just trying to get healthier. And that's not fun. So hopefully he has a healthy year and we can see him transform.
Yeah.
Whatever that's going to look like. Because I always thought he could play a lot like Tatum as more of a primary ball handling version. If he can get to be close to that guy, Jalen Duren makes some progress. Thompson makes some progress. Jaden Ivey. They're not cooking with grease. What's the alternative to grease?
A little light fat, a little lighter fat. Yeah, a little canola oil, maybe. You're still cooking. It's a fat.
Yeah. At least anything cooking, because it's been a cold oven stove for a long time, right?
Terrible.
We need to get something cooking in Detroit.
For sure. God, that team. Whew. The talent, right? They have it. It's there. But folks, remember, Orlando, not too long ago, was fucking wasteland. We were like,
they were cold too, right?
And now all of a sudden, look, they got to the playoffs, won their first round series. Right? They beat the Cavs in the first round, didn't they?
Nope.
They lost in Game 7. That's right. Why do I always think they won that series?
We always forget that. I forgot it last week too. Yeah.
But look, no one saw that coming. But they're
with a
building
lot of upside to grow.
Correct. So listen, Detroit, it looks bleak, but shit, look at the Knicks. They were in fucking wasteland for decades plus. Now look at them.
You need a couple guys to make that big jump. And the difference is I don't love Bickerstaff. I like him fine. I don't love him.
Okay.
We'll see how he does, right? We'll see
what did he learn from Cleveland, right? Because he did bubble Cleveland up to a certain level, right? So what did he learn from
Absolutely.
I got them there, but I couldn't get them to the next stage. We'll see. But basically, Detroit's in that same place where Cleveland was. So he's, in that essence, the same things that worked early in Cleveland will work early here in Detroit.
Yeah.
When they get good, what did you learn? We'll see. Time will tell us that.
Right.
Last quick thing. He was playing pickup, I believe, somewhere. And Memphis, Gigi Jackson, Jones fracture. Had surgery this
Jones
week.
Fracture
sometime.
was? I didn't know that.
See, I hate when they never say that, but they'll be like, he broke the 5th metatarsal bone. I'm like, that's a Jones fracture. When you break the 5th metatarsal bone in your foot, that is a Jones fracture. But I guess for PR reasons, if they say Jones fracture, people are going to freak out. I will say this. People are like, 3 months to be back. I'm like, I would not be in such a hurry to rush back from a Jones fracture surgery. See? Kevin Durant.
But I've talked to there was a player that I helped who had it, and he was completely fine. They had a good plan in place. You're not wrong. You don't rush it back. But that's Memphis is in my middle class. They could absolutely make a big jump.
Yes.
And he was, he's still a youngest guy in the league last year, right?
Yeah.
I think he was the youngest player in the league last year. And he was good on a terrible team. Hopefully he'll get back by the new year, right?
That's the hope. Yeah. He'll be reevaluated in December. And then if all's well, we'll start ramping up. You'll probably see him in the new year if things go well. But should be interesting to see how John Morant back healthy. We'll see how that looks in Memphis. All right, folks, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next week. Take care.